Hey, it's me, and I'm JV, the Antique Autistic. This is part 3 in this series. I realize nobody's going to be really watching it, probably for another year, so it'll probably take that long to get enough readership, enough subscribers. But I want to explain, like I said before, about why I want to put a lot of emphasis on PTSD, the effects of PTSD, and so many of us were autistic, and a lot of us came from extremely violent backgrounds, and how we can work together, especially in community, to help each other out. But before I continue with my story, I want to tell you, well, one, I'm happy, I'm blessed, wonderful husband, sons, like I said, friends. One really nice thing is I seem to have an ability, I pick out friends who I can maintain friendship with. I've had some of the same friends for 40 years, and I treasure each and every one of them. I've had a couple that I've lost, but mostly I have the same wonderful friends, plus new ones. I also want to talk about my grandpa. Now, I've never really, until the last 12 years or so, had a poor self-esteem despite the absolutely horrific abuse. Mostly I'm talking about the things Monster number 2 has done, but time-wise, as far as inflicting pain, probably that wasn't a thousandth as much even as what the others did. But anyway, I had this grandpa who lived in Illinois. I grew up in Denver, and my grandma and grandpa would come down in their little camper trailer once a year, and I adored my grandpa, and my grandpa adored me. And my mom, you know, like, she'd never said, gee, you're a pretty little girl, or you're cute, or I'm so proud of you, or anything like that. And Debbie also, we were talking, she never did with Debbie either, though she did with Monster number 1. But my grandpa, he would tell me how wonderful I was and how sweet I was. And he would tell me that he wanted me to come live with Grandma and him, and that they tried, but they couldn't do it. They tried talking to my dad and, you know, getting my dad to allow me to. And because he said, you need to really get away from all of this. And I said, yeah, for my dad. And he said, no, from your entire family. And I said, well, they do those things, but they don't know better. And I don't know where I got that idea, except for they would all get together, and I would join them in talking bad about my father. But what everybody else did seemed to be okay, and it seemed to be, well, Vicky's, you know, a liar. They would steal from me, say I stole from them, say, well, Vicky's a liar. Also, horrible things. God, Monster number 1, I remember about three different occasions. I specifically remember when she told me, just remember, my mission in life is to destroy yours. And she's never stopped. You know, she first said that like 50 years ago, and she's never, ever stopped. Okay, getting back to the story. I saw my friend. I was gonna hitchhike to California, be a hippie with flowers in my hair, and because I just had to get away. I could not. And suicide was never an option for me. I never even thought seriously about it until the last years. But I said, I gotta find a solution, and I was gonna go there. My friend asked me to wait until see if she could find something, and she did. There was a place, it was called Colorado Junior Republic. Most of the kids who were there, they were from all over the country, had been put in there by the courts giving a decision to these kids whether they could go to juvenile hall, or whether they could go to this Colorado Junior Republic. These were kids who were all considered gifted children, and had a lot of pain in their life and needed a fresh break. As far as the man who put it together, Henderson, Mr. Henderson, is my name, first name might have been John, and that's something you should really maybe research into, because this man had the most fascinating life, and very, very rich man. Had a great big underground fortress in Ward, Colorado. The main school was located in Lafayette, still is, and my friend went to them and said, all these horrible things are happening to my best friend, and could you guys please take her? She's going to hitchhike to California. Can you take me too? And they said, yeah. And she came back and told me. And so that's how I got to Colorado Junior Republic. Also, this man, Mr. Henderson, was a major investor in Avon. And because he was a major investor in Avon, everything there, you know, we got things called CJR dollars that we would get for, you know, working in the kitchens and baling hay and all that kind of stuff. And we would use it to, you know, to buy what we wanted. And all the toiletries were Avon. And even now, I don't know how many times I've been an Avon lady, but when I'm feeling the stress, I become an Avon lady again, and I am one right now, by the way. So eventually I got out of there. My mom said, oh, monster number 2 feels so horrible about what he did, which 8 months ago he let me once again know he didn't feel bad about raping a 13-year-old girl when he was 21 and a half years old. And getting her pregnant, and my dad basically giving up all his money so that he could keep his son out of prison. Anyway, I wound up growing up, of course, immediately getting married, and I had believed what my grandpa said, you know, that I was wonderful and this and that, so I didn't believe the lies they said about me. I figured they just had some problems. They didn't know any better, though of course they did. So I got married. I married a man. Very autistic fashion. I looked for good DNA. I looked for someone extremely intelligent and extremely good looking, and I personally don't care about looks, but I realize other people do, and so I wanted, you know, to have good-looking children because it would be easier for, I was aware that would make it easier for them in life. And he was, at the time, a straight A student, working part-time as a for the stagehand, which got us into all sorts of really awesome concerts. And married, I had children, and Pat Schroeder, Representative Pat Schroeder, because Lori was so awesome, I had arranged for a scholarship to him for DU where he could become a lawyer, but things happened with my family. He was afraid I would leave him, so he moved to Montana, and that never happened. But definitely that kept us poor, which was one of my goals, was to be poor so that I wouldn't be like I told you in the other interviews, why I wanted to be poor. And monster number 1 and my father, I mean, they never laid off, especially monster number 1. My husband was terrified of monster number 1. Absolutely terrified. She's the one who called 2 weeks before he died and got a loved one of mine convinced that he was faking the illness he was in the next room dying from, and put into effect different things that caused my loved one, my husband, to feel that one of his loved ones did not love him, that maybe hated him as he was laying there dying. So Anyway, he died, and I was going to move to Idaho with my friend Gail, who had just inherited 2 houses. But being autistic, I'm anal about keeping my word, and my husband had these promises. One of them was, go home to get support from your family, go live in Denver. And I was like, what? Are you crazy? You know how my family is. And he said, yeah, but with me dead, I'm sure they'll change. Well, my dad did. And things went along. They did activities that I wasn't invited to and such. And I was told when I was expected to be at activities, and I had better be there. But they did all sorts of things together that I wasn't invited to. And my father was ill, and he became more ill and more ill. And that's what I'm going to talk about in the next video, because that is when my life really, really changed. Okay, to you haters, we're here, we're weird, get used to it.